Good morning and welcome to our podcast today. We have a special guest, and a few years ago we had him on before, and we had such a great time having a great conversation about what he does. And we got a special event coming up, and I'm going to let him tell you about it. But first, let me introduce you to him. This is Mike Palumbo, and Mike, kind of give our viewers a little bit quick background on yourself and who you are, where you come from, and what you do.
Okay, well, I'm the conductor of Chamber Orchestra Ogden. I taught at Weber State University from 1982 until 2013, and retired from that and started this orchestra. And it's been a great thing to do. Enjoyed it. I'm originally from Denver, Colorado. So is my wife, and we've been married now 56 years, and going for the next 56. Have a couple of kids. My son Eric lives in Fruita, Colorado, and my daughter and her husband Allison and Scott live in Denver, Colorado. So that's a little bit about me, I guess.
All right. Well, welcome. We're glad to have you. And so you and I were discussing the other day about a special event that's coming up that you're a part of, and the Ogden Orchestra is going to be a part of. Can you give us a little bit of insight about what this event is and kind of like where it's taking place?
Yeah, I'll try and do this accurately so I don't misrepresent the Union Station. But Union Station is celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. And I can't remember the exact date that it was officially soft opened, but somewhere around November, I think. Anyway, on November 22nd, Chamber Orchestra Ogden is going to play a concert celebrating Ogden and trains because of the centennial. They invited us to come and do this. So we're going to be at Union Station in the Browning Theater on the north side of the building for this concert. It's part of a two-day celebration that actually goes Friday and Saturday. There's going to be a lot of, there are going to be a lot of events taking place. Friday with the sealing of the time capsule, the concert, the drone show that's taking place afterwards, so it'll be kind of exciting. The concert is free, by the way, so you just have to show up and listen. On Saturday, there are going to be a bunch of events taking place at the station, too. I can't tell you too much about them because, frankly, I don't remember everything that's going on. But it's going to be a really great 2 days of celebration. So hopefully everybody can come in for a little bit anyway and get an idea of what's going on.
Yeah, sounds like there's a lot of things going on down there for 2 days of celebration. And what was the time of the concert? Did you say again?
Oh, sorry, it's 7:30.
7:30 Friday night.
Right, 7:30 Friday night. It will be finished, and everybody will be outside so they can watch the drone show at 8:30.
Oh, wow.
Make some changes in the way the music works so that everybody can be out for the drone show to start, because we have to do the drone show between front runner appearances for whatever safety's sake. And I don't know enough about that to talk any more about it, but that's what it's supposed to be. And I think it'll be fine. It should be a fun concert. A lot of good music. Polar Express. Now there is some train music that's maybe a little bit different.
And that's what I wanted to ask you next. So when they asked you to participate in this really special event, what were your thoughts? Did they have an idea of what kind of music they wanted you to play, or were they leaving that all up to you? How did you come to the set of songs your orchestra is going to be performing?
Well, we had a meeting, I think it was in September of 2023, and discussed all of the various things that were going to take place. And nobody said you need to do this music or this music, but we talked about, since it's going to be Union Station and it is going to be Ogden, that we want to play music that celebrates trains and Ogden, There's no music really for Union Station. So Alfonso Tenrero, who's a very well-known composer in Ogden, was commissioned to write a piece, which is called Union on 25th, and we're going to premiere that on the concert. It's going to be fun. I can't tell you how it sounds yet because we don't start rehearsals until what is this? Yeah, until tomorrow night. So we'll have Wednesday and Thursday rehearsals before the concert. But other than that piece, they pretty much said anything you can find about trains or just any general music. Well, fortunately, I was able to find some stuff about trains. And we're going to do a piece called Crossroads of the West, which was actually written to celebrate Ogden.
Wow.
And performed in 2019 with the Kruger Brothers and in their band. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
So you're telling me that that the composer, one of the composers, is from Ogden.
Yeah.
Our conductor is, you yourself residing in Ogden, and then the musicians for the orchestra, are they generally from the Ogden area?
They come from around the Ogden area, yes.
Okay.
A wider range, Davis County, some from Salt Lake. It's a very good professional level group of musicians that I'm very privileged to be able to work with. But it's local. I mean, it's a really local orchestra. We don't bring in people from outside Idaho or Colorado or anything like that. It's all the good musicians that are around here. There's a surprisingly number of really excellent musicians, and I'm happy to say that a lot of them are my former students at Weber State.
Oh man.
Yeah, they're so much fun. And most of the people in the group are not full-time professional musicians. They're everything from, we have a pharmacist, we have lawyers, we have people that are stay-at-home parents, as well as professional musicians. So it runs the gamut. The only requirement is you must be a good performer,
Well, how does that make you feel that, people that are in the orchestra, like personally, how does that make you feel that they were once your students and they held on to the music, throughout their adult lives?
Actually, it surprises me they'll still have anything to do with me. No, it's so great that we still have the relationships that we do have. And I really treasure these relationships with my former students, and of course all of the other players. But I have to admit that my former students maybe are a little bit more special to me just because of who they are and who they were.
So I have a question for you from a technical standpoint, from the mechanics of conducting an orchestra, and also kind of like putting on this program. What are the steps that you have to figure out as far as what type of instrumentation you're going to have included in a particular piece or in the show itself? And then how do you go about like putting all the pieces together to pull this off?
Okay, so the first part of that is that the orchestra is an established group, and so it's pretty much the same people all the time. Now, sometimes you run into problems of conflicts with this or that, and then I draw on a list of very good subs that come in and play for us. As far as the instrumentation, I pick the music, and don't worry about the instrumentation because we'll have the instrumentation that we need. And if I need something really special, can't think of what right offhand, a penny whistle or something like that. Actually, I think I have somebody in my percussion section that plays penny whistle. But if we need something special, I might go outside of the group. But that's how we plan that. As I said, I don't pay any attention to what the instrumental needs are for a particular piece of music, unless we're doing a very specific type of program where I only have limited musicians and I have to accommodate them. Okay. A good example is when we're doing something like in the spring, we're going to do the Imagine Ballet, Cinderella Ballet by Prokofiev. And we are limited by finances a little bit. We're limited by the size of the pit at Peary's Egyptian Theater. And because of that, we have to be careful about the instrumentation that we use, because there isn't enough room in the pit for all the musicians. So we use a reduced orchestra and what they call a reduced orchestration that doubles up some parts and leaves out some parts. And, but other than that, for our concerts, I just plan the concerts and everybody shows up and we play. We do 3 rehearsals normally and then a concert. For this, we're just doing 2 rehearsals.
Okay, so from a musician's point of view, I want to know if you're looking through their eyes at you, okay, as the conductor, what are they looking for as for what you do with the conducting portion of it, and how are they looking for signals, timing? Can you kind of explain that for people that don't really understand what a conductor does?
Well, there is the old joke, Alex, that says the most important thing a conductor does is gives the downbeat and then turns around and bows when the music's over and takes credit for it all. In reality, it's a little more complicated, but the higher quality of musicians you have in the group, the less they depend on watching your every move. I give a downbeat, I control the tempo, I give some cues to be sure that instruments that have been sitting out for 15 or 20 measures come in correctly. But mostly the orchestra plays as a unit because they're musicians, they're good musicians, and they don't really need me. And so that's where the joke comes from. They don't need me to do a lot of things that I might have to be more specific with if I was teaching, say, high school orchestra or something like that. They watch me for cues, they watch me for tempo, if we slow down or speed up. The most important thing I can do is be clear, so that there's no confusion about what the heck is he doing up there, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's it, I think.
Okay.
So, is there anything more specific that you want?
No, but like I said, you know, when I've watched orchestras and conductors before, you know, I've seen some that are really animated, you know, and they're bringing up things like this, and like you said, you're kind of setting the tempo of the music and everything like that. But it's fascinating to me when you have, whether it's a smaller orchestra or a larger one, how everything has to be in sync. And I know they have their music in front of them and so forth, but there's also that, like you know, like I just mentioned, where something has to bring some power to it, you know what I mean? And how the conductor's kind of responsible for the emotion of it, I guess, because it's not just like you said, there's more to it than that, you know, turning around, taking a bow. It's you know, you're driving the emotional part of it. It seems to me, at least from an audience perspective and someone who doesn't understand the mechanics of it, that's how I view it. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. Emotion's a good term for it. I'm leading the group with my interpretation of how the music should go. And that particular personal interpretation is going to vary from one conductor to another. But there are certain things that we all do that are right. You have a crescendo, as you say, you get more power out of it. You want to get them softer. You just a smaller stick and hand motions. Again, I go back to the more advanced the musicians are, the less you have to be in their face, so to speak, with motions, because they read the music and it says get softer here. And so they get softer as a group. They're listening to each other. So if something happens, rather than the group just falling apart, they're going to play, you know, if I dropped it on the podium or something, well, they might stop for that. But other than that, it's pretty much me just being steady, staying out of the way as well as conducting, so that I don't overmanage. You
Right.
can overmanage anything, right? Okay, so you know how much you need to do, and you know when to back off. Okay? And the other thing is I try my best not to, because I'm standing there in front of the orchestra, okay, my back to the audience, and I'm wildly gesticulating and doing things like that. It gets in the way of the music because the audience is watching me, and they shouldn't. Music was written back in the earliest times. There was no conductor. You got together and you played music. That's the way it still should be. People should hear that music, not be watching me.
Well, you bring up an interesting question for me then. How did the position of a conductor come along as far as historically?
That is a good question. This could take forever, but I'll just try and make a very succinct comment about it. As groups got bigger, well, let's go back to a period like the Renaissance and then the Baroque period. So we're looking at 1500 through 1750 maybe, right? Small groups. You had a couple, three musicians playing together. You don't need a conductor. You get a larger group. Then you have somebody sitting in front of the orchestra playing the harpsichord as what's called a continuo part. And that person might bring in this or bring in that, but other than that, he or she, mostly he at that time, because women were not allowed to do much of anything, of course. But he would bring in the group, he would play. Now, as it got bigger and bigger, you got to the point where you had an orchestra that was maybe 40 people. And then it became harder for a harpsichordist to necessarily be able to bring everybody in and keep the ensemble together. Eventually, you have people like Jean-Baptiste Lully, who used a
Staff?
a staff, thank you, a staff, that's it. And pounding on the floor to keep the tempo. I would assume probably just in rehearsals, because that would be really distracting in a program. But, in fact, a little aside on that is that he jammed it on his foot and died of gangrene.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
Wow.
just be careful, right? Okay, get those ski poles and keep them out of the way. So that's what happened. In the in the early, actually, 19th century, Louis Spohr, a German violinist, composer, and orchestra leader, is more or less credited with being the first person to actually take a baton and stand in front of the group and conduct it and do more than just be a leader with the violin.
Right.
So from that point on, conductors have developed, in the golden age of music from the early 1900s up through 2000 maybe. Some conductors were absolute tyrants,
So
fortunately, we don't have much of that anymore.
well, let me ask you.
Yeah.
You said something that really struck my curiosity. Why did you label it the golden age of music?
Well, no, I would. Okay, let me retract that. That's probably the wrong thing to say. What I mean, as far as idolizing and worshiping conductors. Toscanini and many others like that, Fritz Reiner, all these conductors who were just absolute dictators on the podium. And of course, this was back before union representation and fairness and so on for the musicians. And so you did something and, Toscanini would say, out, and you're fired. That's it. Of course, he did that a lot, but he also then he'd bring you back in because he had a hot temper. But there were conductors like that were idols.
Yeah.
Actual
Heroes.
Yeah, they were to a lot of the public. Well, it's not the same way anymore, which is better. We have some great conductors in this world, absolute amazing conductors. But they aren't the same kind of tyrant. they can't get away with, first of all, the union won't allow it, which is a good thing, since I'm still a union member, and I spent 10 years as the president of the Utah Musicians Union. And we had our share of problems like that, but we were always able to take care of it.
So let me ask you this question. And it's probably a really stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Oh, there's no stupid questions.
Are you a musician yourself?
Other than a conductor?
Other than a conductor, like have you been in an orchestra yourself?
Oh yeah, I'm a violist. I taught viola at Weber State. I played as the principal violist at Valley West Orchestra. I was in that orchestra for 29 years, although not principal all the time. I played in orchestras all over the country.
Excellent.
I substituted with Utah Symphony many times, although I don't play anymore. But back when I was doing that, I was a very active performer.
Okay, so let me put you in the musician's seat on the stage, looking out towards the audience and looking at who your conductor was back in the day. As a musician, what were you looking for as far as your fellow musicians, the response from the crowd? So the whole experience as a musician, what did you see? What did you experience? Kind of share that from that position.
Sure. Sitting in the viola section, whether I was sitting in the back or whether I was sitting in the front, the thing that was most on my, well, maybe not consciously on my mind, but the thing that I thought most about when I was playing was watching the conductor for any little thing, but always listening to the musicians around me, because we had to play together. And more than once, we had what I would consider not to be great conductors, okay? And the group had to just sort of play itself, and the conductor followed us along. So I guess watching for clarity, the same thing I try to produce when I conduct. Watching for clarity is paramount. Second, listening. I guess not second. It goes along with listening to the entire orchestra, so that I don't find out that I'm way behind or I'm way ahead or something like that, because then you never get invited back to play again. There's the old story about a very famous conductor who was a marvelous conductor in Europe, and on his way to retirement, he stopped in at the Denver Symphony. He was the conductor of the Denver Symphony. His name was Vladimir Golshman. And I, of course, living in Denver and my grandmother playing in the symphony, I attended concerts a lot. I got to go in free, so why not? And watching Golshman play, at the time I was taking violin lessons from the concertmaster of the Denver Symphony. And so at one concert, after that concert, and I had my next lesson, I said, how do you follow him? Because he's doing this. and Harold Whipple turns to me and he looks at me and he says, who watches? Well, if you have a conductor that makes no sense whatsoever, you just play and just let him wave his arms, I guess, or her arms. But you don't find that too much. Conductors really usually try to be right on the nose because they want things to go well. Does that answer the question?
So now I want to jump back to the present, and I'd like to ask you about the program itself. And you mentioned some of the songs, and finding songs about trains to keep it with the purpose of the whole celebration. How many people do you know are going to be in the orchestra for this performance? How many?
67.
How many?
67. That's our normal complement.
Wait. 6 and a 7?
Right.
Wow.
That's what our normal instrumentation is. That includes the harp, because sometimes you don't need a harp for a concert, but that's the harp and a keyboardist who will play various parts like celeste and so on electronic keyboard.
Okay, so for those of you watching that, as you could tell, I was shocked. Again, I don't have much knowledge as far as that goes, but 67 musicians, including a conductor, performing this show. I can almost hear it now. It's going to sound fantastic. So I do want to encourage you guys to go. It's free, but to have a once in a lifetime, because this show, right, is a specific show. It's not something that plays year after year after year. This is a one-time deal, right?
It is, yeah. Not again until 100 years from now, and I probably won't be around anymore. So that's it. We used to play at Union Station when we first started the orchestra. Our executive director there invited the orchestra to perform in that theater, and the stage is pretty small. Ramp, thanks to the generosity of Ramp, we got a shell built, but we only had about 50 players in the orchestra at that time. It was a different type of group, so we ended up going to Peary's Egyptian Theater for various reasons. And so in order to play this concert, the station is having some big platforms put in front of the stage so that we can fit the entire orchestra on the stage. So it's a little different than it was, but it's a great little place. It's got really good acoustics. You'd think that a big boomy hall like that wouldn't, but it does.
Okay, so again, let me jump back to the musicians, because I often wonder, when we go to shows like for many years we've gone to Kurt Bester and different kinds of shows like that, and that have multiple musicians and violin sections and so forth. And I look at and this is a personal thing for me. I look at their faces with just to see if they're feeling the emotion, that they're playing, you know what I mean? And I see some people very like focused, and I see other people, moving their heads, and and just like personalities, you can kind of see it come out in the musicians, but yet they're coming together to play a piece. And like you said, they have to listen to each other, and they have to be in sync, and their timing has to be right there, and the power of the quietness and all these things, to me, is fascinating, that you can pull it off. So being a musician, and after the show was over, how do they think about it? Even as a conductor, how do you guys think about whether the show was a success for you or not? And I'm not just talking about the applause, obviously, but I'm just kind of feeling, how do they determine if this we killed it, or it was amazing, or it was kind of a little bit lackluster, that kind of a thing? What do they talk about? What's the conversation behind the stage?
Well, let's see.
I know I ask really strange questions.
No, that's fine. I'm just trying to figure out how to answer this. For me, I judge how well the concert went, not by the applause, not by anything like that, because people applaud because the concert's good, and the average person in the audience maybe doesn't hear probably doesn't hear what I hear, as far as, whoops, now that was a wrong note. Okay, that horn player played that flute player or whatever, violin player. I hear those little things, but other people don't hear them, but the people in the orchestra do. Mm-hmm. And so how do we judge how well the concert went? We judge that nothing serious went wrong. Okay? In other words, the group, obviously it didn't fall apart, but we didn't play something that was so egregiously bad that that somebody in the audience said, "Ooh, that was terrible." As a general rule, we don't talk much about what we have done in a concert.
Interesting.
But what I'll get a number of emails from musicians in the orchestra. Every once in a while, I'm sorry, I really messed up this part. And by my response is, it's done. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to fire you, because mistakes happen. And then I get emails like, oh, that was such a great concert. That piece of music we should make a recording. I mean, we have recordings of everything, but
Right.
we should put that out, because it's so good. So I've run the gamut of comments from the orchestra, but we don't normally talk about it afterwards. Everybody drops their music in the box and goes home, right?
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So we just have a couple of minutes left, Mike,
Sure.
and so take us back to the Union Station, to the is it called the Browning Room or the Browning Hall?
Browning Theater.
Browning Theater. Okay, so take us back there. What are your guests going to see when they walk in, and what are they going to experience when it's all said and done?
Okay, when they walk in, they'll see a pretty much bare stage as they're coming in, and then gradually the musicians will get on stage, and then they'll hear just various people playing this and that, sort of cacophonic sounds. But then as the lights will lower, the concertmaster will come out, and the orchestra will be quiet, and she'll ask for an A from the oboe, and the oboe will give an A, the tuning note, okay? And the orchestra will tune, and then they'll be quiet, and when they're quiet, that tells me they're ready, and then I'll come out, and they'll all stand, and I'll acknowledge them, and then they'll sit down, and boom, we hit the downbeat and we get started.
So if you've never been to a performance of an orchestra before, highly recommend it. As you can tell, there's many people involved, 67 instruments on stage, on one stage with a conductor, for a one-time show, for a very specific celebration of Union Station's 100-year celebration. And I was reading up a little bit before I got on with you, Mike, and about the first ticket sold. And yeah, that's pretty cool.
It is.
And I guess it was a Weaver County treasurer who waited in line for hours and hours and hours because he wanted to be the first one there. And then I read also that he saved it for as a souvenir, that first ticket. And
right.
But see, so you can experience something sooner. The public, I'm talking to you guys right now. You can experience something equally as cool because, again, this is a one-time show, and the music is specifically chosen for this celebration. You won't hear it anywhere else, and so you got to get down there and enjoy. And here's the best part: it's free. Plus, you get all kinds of other stuff going on that weekend, 22nd and 23rd, correct?
Right.
And drone show, all kinds of stuff going on down there. So it's going to be fun for the whole family. And like I said, if you've never been to a show that has an orchestra, you don't know what you're missing because it is so rich, full of passion, great music, and you're going to really have a great time. Is there any parting words you'd like to say, Mike?
No, not particularly. I just want to concur with what you said. Everybody show up, have a good time. You'll never get an opportunity like this again to celebrate a 100-year celebration with the Union Station. So, yeah, come join us. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yep. And as you can tell from the conductor himself, he's a lot of fun just to listen to and to take us through history, the Renaissance. Come on, Mike. That was awesome. I loved it. Anyway, guys, so Mike, I want to thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it. And come out to the show the 22nd. It's Friday at 7:30 p.m. at the Union Station at the end of historic 25th Street plenty of parking all around, so it'll be really easy to get to. So once again, Mike, thank you so much for your time. And can you say break a leg?
Sure, break a leg, break a baton, whatever. Well, thanks for having me, Alex. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun, as it always is.
All right.
All right. I'll look forward to seeing you, and whatever your latest joke is, the free joke when we have dinner again.
You got it. Good to see you, Mike.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.